Welcome back to Mindful Endeavors. Joining us today is Audrey Patterson. So before we continue, remember just to our listeners and to the viewers that are watching on YouTube that this is not meant for medical advice or any kind of mental health advice. It's just more about having a discussion on the topic and making sure we kind of spread awareness and bring up the conversation a lot more often since it tends to get buried sometimes. So we're going to talk about things from our point of view and our personal experience and how we see things just from an outside perspective. And yeah, we encourage you to keep the conversations going. And if you do need help, we encourage you to definitely seek it. So, all right, let's get started.
Okay.
So, Audrey, we met at the gym, and like before you I don't know, you basically were all cool with us, and then you left for college, and then left us behind. So. But you definitely are health oriented, so I definitely think you can contribute to the conversation and everything. So really quick, introduce yourself and tell us more about what you're doing.
Okay, so hi, I'm Audrey Patterson, as Al said, and I started my fitness business called Reckless Fitness about 2 years ago, just because I found a passion within fitness, and it actually started because of a mental health issue I was dealing with, which we'll get into later. But I really wanted to inspire other people to take care of their bodies, but also to take care of their minds and just spread awareness about health and fitness within itself. So I'm so excited to be here today.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you definitely have a social media presence, and I definitely like when you put your stories up, you definitely spread the message of mental health. And that's kind of one of the things that I've learned throughout the podcast and just the last 2 years is that mental health is definitely multifaceted. So there's a lot of different topics that contribute to it and either deteriorate or enhance it. So yeah. And I think, it's a perfect way to kind of go into our first topic because we know we're both kind of in social media and we're trying to, build up a presence and such like that and things like that. So one of the things that comes up a lot or maybe doesn't is the body positivity and self-image. So one quick fact that I kind of read over time is that with the increase in social media, we've seen a decrease in mental health, especially with young women.
Yes.
So really quick, just kind of talk about what if you see that as well or.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think the most important thing is validation from your peers and from others within your schools and from people on social media. And growing up in a social media culture, it was always, who had the most aesthetic pictures and who had the best Instagram feed, who had the best clothes and the best body. And in high school, I think a lot of young kids don't have the maturity level developed to realize that or to be comfortable in their own skin, and that was me. And so I was always trying to find validation with my appearance in my body, and that's kind of how my BDD formed. So I have something called body dysmorphic disorder, and what it is it's a body image disorder where you see yourself in the mirror and you pick out all of your flaws and everything like that, and you just see every little thing as an imperfection. And it started based off social media, seeing all of these Instagram influencers and all of these Instagram models and just comparing myself to them and saying oh, I wasn't good enough, I wasn't pretty enough. And as a high school kid, first of all, you're not their age, and so you're going to look completely different. But also a lot of those pictures are edited, and a lot of those girls themselves aren't mentally happy where they are because they're focusing on all the wrong things and materialistic things. And so I definitely think that this is really good to spread, especially about social media, because it can be a toxic platform if you want it to be, or it can be used for good things like this. So
I definitely have in a podcast, an episode prior, we did talk about how it started and what it morphed to. And definitely like you said, it can be toxic if you make it toxic, or if you can be, beneficial for whatever. The one group that always takes advantage of it is the small businesses because it's easier to target people for advertisement, and I think it's a little bit cheaper too.
Yeah.
So, I think you're right in that sense that we see people posting different pictures of themselves, and then we think that's what the perfect image is supposed to be because they have a lot of likes, they have a lot of followers, and I think I've heard this on another podcast where apparently people are actually trying to get plastic surgery based on certain
Mhm.
filters.
Yeah,
So
that's ridiculous.
yeah, that's insane to me. Like I can't. I mean, I can't believe it
Yeah.
actually went that far, and like I hope it doesn't spread to like high schoolers or even middle school, people.
Yeah, and I think with social media, the more that, things like that are shared, I think the more common it becomes, and it's something that shouldn't be common. Even things, such as buying like expensive clothes and then people posting it on social media, people feel like they need to do that. And so I definitely think that social media nowadays can promote the wrong things. So
Yeah, I mean, definitely. There's definitely something about the algorithm that does that, right? Because it
mhm.
learns from what habits, what you like share, and all that stuff, and it just keeps feeding you that.
Right.
So
So that's why so like I said, back in high school, I formed BDD, and it's a disorder that it's just like mental within yourself. Like I don't see anybody else that way except for myself, and so people can look it up if they want and do more research about it. But it can be diagnosed and undiagnosed. So like I said, I created my fitness business because I wanted to spread awareness mainly to young women and girls about body positivity and about loving their self image and loving themselves. And now that I'm in a place where I do accept myself for who I am and I don't see my imperfection as flaws rather than just, you can never live up to that expectation of being a perfect person. And so now I want to really educate girls on understanding that being comfortable within your own body is super important. I always use the analogy like, you can look at a girl through Instagram or even your friends or just girls through high school or college, and you can look at them and you think, oh, they're so beautiful. Like, I wish I looked like them. But they're probably thinking the exact same thing, that they wish they either looked like you or somebody else. And so, no one is ever going to be truly happy if they're trying to look like somebody else, because that's not reality and that's not attainable. And
mhm.
I always say that something that helped me was, if you look at somebody on Instagram and you think they're beautiful, like compare them to a flower and then look at yourself and you're a sunset. They're two different things, but they're both beautiful. And so somebody else's beauty doesn't take away from your own. And that's something that I have learned throughout the years, just by myself, kind of having this mental war with myself, I guess, going back and forth of, one day I might have felt not beautiful, or I might have felt, I don't really like the term fat. I might have felt bigger other days or not as confident. And then, I'd always try to remind myself that, like this is me and I need to be nicer to my body. And, this other girl that I might be comparing myself to, she's probably just as insecure. And so yeah, so that's why one of the reasons I started creating my fitness business and like my Instagram. So.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on, I think, probably four major points. Like one of them being like the fact that you look at somebody else and they post maybe once a week, twice a week, and you don't know what they're going through the rest of the times that they're not posting.
Mhm. Yeah,
So you never know what kind of demons they're battling and everything. So to
right.
really like just see something superficial and seeing that and using that as a metric of like being of perfection, is a little
Mhm.
bit disingenuous, and I think we do that to ourselves because I mean it affects everybody really, but like I mentioned earlier, it affects younger women a lot more. At least
Mhm.
that's what we have in terms of our data. So I
Mhm.
think we need to first understand that what we see on TV, what we see in social media, what we see in any kind of forms of media, movies, or whatever,
Mhm.
that has been enhanced to some degree. Like even when you like, there's times, and I mean, I'll be honest, like when I was younger, when I'd be like, oh, this actress looks really, really gorgeous on
Mhm.
screen, but then when I met her in person, like, it's like,
Yeah.
doesn't look the same.
Yeah.
Like why, and it's like, yeah, and that's kind of one of the things that we have to like hold ourselves accountable to in the sense that we
Mhm.
have to like keep going into social media with that mindset that it's
Mhm.
not perfection, and ultimately you have control of your life. And I think that's what like
Yeah.
we need to kind of focus on.
I try to promote that as well on my Instagram, and, I'll definitely post, like, more professional looking photos and that are edited just, for professional and business purposes, but I'll also post, like, me after a workout drenched in sweat, or, like, some days when I'm bloated, just to, like, keep it real and keep it authentic and know that, like, not everybody is perfect or skinny or whatever 24/7. Like, we all go through stuff, and that's normal and that's life. And I think that that needs to be shared more often. And so I try to keep my Instagram, like I said, real, but also professional. And yeah.
Yeah, like I had because I mean, my Instagram is more outdoors and, mental health focused,
Mhm.
but I've had a couple people like reach out to me and like, oh, you make fishing look easy. And it's like, well, all you're seeing is a post of me catching a fish. You didn't see
Mhm.
me spending 2 hours just to land one fish.
Yeah.
You didn't see me the next day where maybe, okay, I caught 3 fish in like 20 minutes and that was a good day, but
Hmm.
you don't see the struggle really, right? So
Right.
that's kind of another thing where like in my stories I tend to post that, like, me trying to like fish a bank or fish a pond and see me struggling, and sometimes I don't
Mhm.
catch anything, and that's okay because that's reality. Sometimes you don't catch anything, and it's the same way with anything, with other aspects in life. Like
Yeah.
sometimes you're trying to hit a fitness goal, and maybe like you have like a fitness goal by like a certain date. It doesn't work out that way, but it's not the end of the world. You still have a bunch more time.
Right.
So there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of nuance to this, and I think, I mean, most importantly, like we just gotta kind of like the education that comes from like the people that are pushing the content out. That
Mhm.
also, like, there's a responsibility there too, So
Mhm.
it's really tough, and I'm not trying to like put the blame on anyone in particular, but it's kind of like an everybody type of situation where they're
Mhm.
either gonna get through this together or we're not.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, and like you look at COVID, and also it's like the lockdowns in schools, and you're not really interacting as much. So, you
Mhm.
know, you don't share experiences, like that kind of may also play into that as well. Because like
Yeah.
you said, like, you may have a friend that looks, well, somebody might think that, oh, my friend looks more gorgeous than I do, but then
Mhm.
that person thinks the opposite, about
Right.
them, right? So it's really tough.
Mhm.
So I mean, it's really good that it's good that you like brought up the mental disorder that you were talking about, the BDD.
BDD, it's body dysmorphic disorder.
It's good that you brought that up because like I didn't even know that that was actually diagnosed and that was a proper term for it.
Mhm.
So that's kind of why like I do want to encourage more people to talk about these things on any platform that they really have, like they get a chance, because I for me, like, I mean, I never thought that that was an actual like disorder. Like I thought it
Mhm.
was just like, oh, well, just maybe some insecurities here and there, but no.
Yeah, I didn't know it was a disorder either, until I really struggled with, back in the beginning of high school, I actually struggled with some eating disorders. So that's one affected BDD. So like anorexic and bulimic are side effects, or so like bad relationships with food, or constantly looking at yourself in the mirror and judging yourself, or constant negative thoughts about your body image and just like yourself as a person. And so those are all like signs of it, and I didn't really know what it was, if I was just going through something. And, I'm the kind of person who, if I have an issue, I usually just either work through it myself, or I just kind of leave it alone and don't worry about it, because I was always taught, be mentally tough and just to like work through your problems. And um, I don't think mental illness is a weakness at all. I think that most people deal with issues, whether it's, depression, anxiety, or BDD. And it's just one of those things where we do need to build a community to help spread awareness and help others get through it. And also share like our experiences. Like I got through it. Like, of course, I still struggle with triggers here and there, and I'm not confident 100% of the time, but I'm at a place right now where I realize, if I have negative thoughts about myself, I will do a complete 180 and, start talking positive and saying, like, this isn't true. This is just your mentality speaking. And, so.
Yeah, me personally, when I push myself to get over something, it's always like in a negative form, kind of like, you're a piece of
Mhm.
crap, get
Yeah.
over this, like stop it, like.
Yeah.
And I understand that doesn't work for everybody, right? So
Mhm.
some people, that may actually drive them to the wrong side that you want to, you're trying to
Right.
get them away from.
Yeah. I
So
think like any problem that anybody has with their relationship, or whether in mental illness, I think that instead of ignoring the problem, what I've learned is that you need to address it and you need to evaluate it and find, I always say, like, the thing behind the thing, like what's the thing that is triggering this issue, and try to work through it and try to resolve it. Because if you just push it away or like ignore it. Like it's always going to be there. And so I
Mm-hmm.
really think it's important for people to work through, as painful as it might be for some people, to just work through whatever it is and try to figure out the thing behind the thing so they can kind of control it and almost in a way be at peace with themselves and understand that it's not like I understand what's causing it and what's creating it, and maybe somehow get control of it. So
Yeah, I mean, and talking to people about it is not necessarily discourage. I know that you don't necessarily discourage. I even though you just talked about like how you deal with things, but like yeah, because like sometimes you never know, somebody else might be struggling the same shape or form, really, and it's one of those things where okay, now I have somebody I can relate, so now I know I'm not alone in this.
Right.
So that definitely like I think will help in terms of like being able to struggle through whatever the problem is, right? And that's another thing too, that when you're talking about like it's not necessarily it shouldn't be a stigma, right? Like if you're depressed, like and I'll preface that by saying I'm not necessarily one that likes to really focus on words and being to quote unquote politically correct, but like in this particular case, like telling somebody that you're depressed, maybe that's not the correct way of like letting them know. It's like, hey, no, you're not depressed because that's not necessarily your identity. You're just struggling with depression right now. Like it's not what defines you, right? And these type of situations, I think it's beneficial to kind of reword things like that to see if you can reach people. I mean, and this is just when you're talking about a community, right? Like because I think that's really what's important, and that's why I started this because of COVID, because we were losing the sense of community to a certain degree. We were like encouraged to stay away from each other. That's not necessarily good. So yeah, so basically things like that, like I mean that's kind of why like, and there's going to be another episode published pretty soon at the time from where we're recording, where like he talked about like what he was struggling with in high school, like and he didn't let it define him, so he was able to kind of bounce back. So I mean, for you, like when you were talking about like struggling with your disorder, like or with your body image, did you have a support group that you talked to, and besides your family, or was it just your family?
I actually didn't even talk to my family about it, especially when I was like having eating disorders and everything. I really just went through it alone, but that's just how I am personally. I just go through things alone, and eventually once I got to a place where I felt like I could talk about it, I reached out to one of my mentors at my church, and she really helped me through it. And then also friends, I told them just so they could be aware, because some of my friends would be like, Audrey, like you never eat out with us. And then my parents made a comment sometimes. They're like, it looks like you're not eating, because I wouldn't eat dinner sometimes. So I got to a place where I got through it and I worked through it myself, and then I told people. And I think that if I were to have reached out to somebody that could help, that I could have figured out the issue earlier. But like I said, I was raised in a household where you're just taught to be mentally tough and just taught to work through it. And so that's just what I did. And but yeah.
I would imagine it's also tough going through like somebody like outside, like somebody like a friend or a parent or whatever. I would imagine it's hard to really identify for them if their child or their friend is going through something, because I mean we look at like in high school and in middle school, like kids go through phases, right? And that's just a thing. It's always been a thing. But how do we know that the phase that they're going through isn't because it stemmed from something that they're struggling with, whether it's anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, body image and all that stuff. Like we don't know that, right? So
Right.
I know that there's parents that do limit their kids from accessing social media. And I grew up in a time where I'm going to date myself a little bit. I grew up where the only thing we had was MySpace. So
Oh, how do you know what that is?
Yeah, so that was like my kind of like social media, that it wasn't the same as what it is now, because like like you had your friends, and there was a whole thing about like a top 8, right? Like you have your top 8 friends and it showed up on your profile for everybody to see. And like there was arguments of like, oh, you have this person as your top 8, like why do you have this person as on your top 8? Or it was just one of those things like dude, I can only fit 8 people. Like,
Yeah.
chill out. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
It's not personal.
eventually. What's up?
I said it's not personal.
Exactly. Like, I got in trouble one time. Well, not in trouble, but this dude, like, because my first year in college, um, I was talking to this girl, and it was strictly platonic, right? But I didn't know that her boyfriend was like super jealous. So,
Oh.
and I had my MySpace page, and one day he was creeping on my page because I commented on one of her photos, and he's like, "Why do you have my girlfriend on your top?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, because she's pretty cool, and she's my last person on there. It's not like I have her like my first one, because like for some reason people thought that like the hierarchy was like if you had the first person on your top 8, that was the most important person to you, and
Oh. Mm-hmm.
so it was just a kind of a clustered
Oh
mess, and
gosh.
yeah, so that was the thing where then Facebook came out, and it was just a little bit at the time it was a little bit better, and until we get into the whole thing about algorithms and
Mm-hmm.
then pushing certain things that that they track that you click to or share. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was my so that's how some of the stuff that we were struggling in terms of like having to put people on our top 8 or whatever. And I mean, obviously you still had your pictures like and everything, so
Mm-hmm.
it was really weird. And because of that, I was very resistant to like Facebook, Instagram, and all that stuff. And I didn't really get into like way later after it was basically like the coolness of it kind of like went away. So it was like 6 years after it launched, and yeah, so and now I see kind of like the benefits of like social media. There are some benefits in the sense that you can connect with people that have that you have your similar interests, and now there's groups that specifically target like mental health in terms of discussion, and you see
Mm-hmm.
different pages that have motivational like posts and words
Oh
of
yeah.
affirmation. So.
Yeah, something that I always say is, what you feed your mind is like what you're gonna think. So if you're on social media and you're comparing yourself to these girls and following all these people who edit a lot of their pictures, or maybe you're following like a lot of negative accounts, like you're going to be putting that into your brain, and that's what you're going to put out is negative energy and negative thoughts about yourself or people around you. And so what I did as a thing, and I was like, okay, has come to a point where I need to figure out what's going on and like fix it. So one of the things I did with social media is I would actually unfollow every single person that didn't benefit me and that was bringing me down in a negative way. So I've unfollowed probably like about 200 people of either girls in high school or college I didn't know, or Instagram models that I was like, they're not doing anything for me. And now I just follow, especially on my fitness account, I only follow like other fitness people who inspire me. And, it's nothing like I compare my body image to them at all. It's like they inspire me to do better within my work and within my job and achieving my goals. And so, like for example, Morgan Rose Maroney is one of my favorite Instagram influencers. She's a partner with Gymshark and Alani New, and she just posts like real authentic content, and she posts in a way that it almost like doesn't force you to compare yourself because it's just her, and she's just sharing what she loves. And so my advice to young girls or even like young guys or just anybody would to put positive things in your mind and on your feed, and to fill your feed with things that you love and fill things that bring you positivity. So if there's an influencer or a person that you're following and all you do when you see their post is judging and comparing yourself, like unfollow them. They're not benefiting you in any way, and they're not, you're not gaining anything from them. And so that's one thing that really helped me is, like I said, who you surround yourself with is what you become. So just surround yourself with positive energy and like accounts that build you up and instead of build you down. So.
No, absolutely, and I think that's a very good transitioning point to one of our other topics, where it's like instant gratification, right? So you hit the nail around the head. When you look at people for inspiration, like other influencers, that's what we should be doing, just looking at them for inspiration, and we shouldn't really imitate them. And we need to also have the mindset where it's like, I'm going to try what they're doing, but I know it might not necessarily work out the same way for me, but as long as it achieves results that I'm happy with, or as long as it achieves results where when I first started versus where I'm at now, I'm in a better position, then that's okay. Even if I'm not exactly like 100% like how this person is or where this person is at. Like perfect example, like I follow David Goggins, I follow Cameron Haynes, and those guys are just like beasts when it comes to like fitness and just, you know, one of them's more into hunting, but when you look at David Goggins specifically, like, you know, I think the man was like, I don't know, 300 pounds or something like that, and then he's like a lean like 200, and
I love those stories.
right, and like he's just, you know, one of those people that's like, well, if it's too cold to run, do it anyway. If it's, you know, and that's, you know, his work ethic, right? And I think it's okay to emulate that, and I think we should be emulating certain things to, you know, of different people like that, but don't expect that we're going to be the next David Goggins. Like, you know, it could be like, well, all right, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to be the first me, not the next this person.
Right. Yeah, just to comment on that topic as well, I agree with what you're saying, and I think that once again, like, you can definitely be inspired by people and motivated by people, but you should be motivated to do whatever it is that you want to do in life. And like everyone was, you know, I'm religious and I believe like everyone was created for a reason and everyone has a certain purpose in life and has a certain gift to give back to this world. And like you said, you can follow people to inspire and get inspiration from, but you shouldn't want to imitate them or copy them in any way because you have your own set of gifts and you have your own potential that you can maximize and that you can reach. And I've been doing a lot of things lately that have changed my mentality, not only with body image, but just with life in general and trying to better yourself and trying to reach your full potential as a human being. And so, yeah.
Yeah, and everybody, and I agree with that, with what you said, and this is coming from a non-religious perspective, but I 100% agree with what you're just saying, that everybody has something to contribute, and everybody can contribute, whether it's small or big. But a lot of times, the biggest changes happen from small, like, you know, contributions. Sometimes,
yeah,
and that's the strangest thing, and it's the one thing that kind of keeps me optimistic. The fact that there's several examples of that, like all the time, like, you know, something as saying hello to somebody, you know, brighten their day and just cheer them up completely. You know, four was it 4 or 5 letters, like, that's it.
Yeah,
you know. And I think
sorry to interrupt, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, today in the gym there was this girl and she was doing squats and then she was doing like split squats with heavy weight and she was just killing it in the gym, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go give her a compliment. And so she actually walked over to go put something away and I was like, hey, like, sorry to interrupt you, but I just want to say, like, you're killing it in the gym and like you look great and everything. And she was like, thank you so much, that made my day. And it's little things like that that can either, you know, somebody could be having a really shitty day and just, you know, not feeling like themselves and relating to body image, just like feeling really insecure in their body, and that one comment could make their day. And so I think that another thing to help with mental illness and what you can do as your part is just be kind to people. And I know that's very cliche and that's very overused, but it's really true. Just be kind to people, and small little compliments here and there, or just even like walking by someone and giving them a smile. You know, they might have had a really bad day at work, their boss was yelling at them, and then you give them a smile, and that's a little thing to brighten their day. And so with me, like, of course, like whenever I'm in the gym and I see a girl killing it, or I mean, even a guy killing it, I go up and I'd be like, hey, like, you're doing a great job. And so I think that's one thing, is like, since now I'm on the other side of the bridge with getting over my mental illness, and of course I do have hard times and dark times that I have to work through in life, but when I'm in a good place in my life, I'm able to spread that positivity as well to others. And so, yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's 100% correct. I mean, I think, you know, just telling somebody, hey, you're killing it, dude. Awesome. Like, you know, like you're pushing me to, you know, push myself. Like, you know, I'm pretty sure people get a kick out of that. And I think
when people tell me that.
Yeah, dude, like, honestly, like, you know, you're in a better position, and I've seen this and I've talked to you about this, like, you're in a better position than I was at your age. And it's not to, like, you know, discourage you, or it's not necessarily to basically like put you in your place. Like, no, like, it's actually because I respect that hustle, and that's awesome, like, that you're doing that, especially, you know, providing like inspirational advice, or just, you know, doing your part to make things more authentic. Like, I mean, I think a lot of people take that for granted. And you know, to go back to what you were saying, like, there is this meme that I saw at one point where it was like something about like a pair of twins grew up with an abusive father, an alcoholic abusive father.
Oh.
One turned out to be the same way. The other one did not. The other one does not drink a single day. And you asked the first person, did you see that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of butchering it a little bit, but basically that's the drunk one. It's like, so why are you like this? It's like, well, that's all I saw. And then you ask the one that's sober and, has, I guess, his life together. And he just says, well, that's all I saw, but that's what I saw that I shouldn't be doing or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
Like two people growing from the same household. And you see that a lot in different areas, like across the country. They grew up in the same similar situation, but one gets out and one stays in the same perpetual, cycle that it's not beneficial.
Yeah. And I think that also has to deal with mentality, not necessarily mental illness, but your mentality. You can see somebody in a certain situation and you can either, learn from them or you can just repeat them. And so
it's just that when people can't be afraid of breaking off, like you said earlier, like stuff that doesn't necessarily like enhance your mental health, doesn't necessarily like mean anything productive or not, I don't want to like make it sound worse than what it really is, but like
they just don't for you.
Yeah, like it's like definitely toxic relationships, whether it's friends, family, whatever. Like we can't be afraid to kind of break off. Doesn't necessarily mean we have to like completely like excise them from our lives or anything. It's a very situational thing. Like it depends. Like if you have somebody that's mentally abusing you, then yes, probably stay away as far as you can. But if you have somebody where it's like, oh, this person just wants to go out and party every weekend.
Yeah.
But I'm like, all right, that's not productive to me. It's not, it's one of those, I think that's one of those situations where like, okay, we can still talk and be cool, but I'm not going to hang out with you, especially when you do like those events, right?
They're not a part of your circle for sure.
Yeah. And go ahead.
Yeah. I just wanted to say another thing that helped me through high school and helped me through my disorder was surrounding myself with positive people, because just advice for anybody, whatever age in life, if you have a so-called friend or you're in a relationship and those people bring you down, and if you feel like you can't open up and you can't talk to them because you're afraid to be judged, or you're afraid even if they don't understand, they won't try to be there for you, that is a toxic relationship, and you need, as hard as it might be, to get away from those people. And I've had to do that. I've had to cut people out, and I've had to tell them, be like, hey, I'm just going to be really honest. Like, you're not benefiting me in any way. And, I don't think we should be friends anymore. And that is something that's really hard, but I think that is crucial just in life in general, especially if you're going through something and you feel like the people closest to you can't help you through it, then that's a sign that they shouldn't be close to you in the first place. So
yeah, definitely communication should definitely be prioritized, because like even like now I've had situations where it's like, oh, how come you don't like hit us up anymore? It's like, well, I need to focus on me first before I can help anybody else. Like I can't help anybody else if I'm barely being held up by duct tape. I can't do that. It's like, it's one of those things where like somehow, and this is kind of back to the stigma where we try to like take like a mental health day for ourselves. That kind of is looked at as like selfish under certain like situations, and even with certain people, certain groups of people, like that's looked at as selfish. Like that's something that I've always wondered, like even in the workplace, like we have sick days, but we can't really use them just to be like, well, I need a mental health day, and that's more important, right? I mean, granted, we have vacation time, but there's a difference. Like honestly, like a vacation can help. I honestly do think it can, but sometimes that might just be like putting a Band-Aid on an open wound.
Yeah.
Because you're not addressing the
Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah, Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
That's a lyric from one of my favorite songs. So
what song is that?
It's called Band-Aid on a Bullet Hole by Morgan Wallen.
Okay. I have not listened to it. You gotta
It's a country song, but I love that song. So sorry.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect. Like honestly, because yeah, like it's definitely relevant. So, and that's the kind of things that we need to be surrounded by, like music that kind of like, I mean, yeah, like something that has a little bit like of a cheery, melody or beat or anything. But and sometimes like, I mean, I know I listen to lyrics more than I listen to the actual like beat of any song. And like right now, I just found recently, it's kind of weird. I found on YouTube, because I do watch anime, and like from one of my favorite anime series, I saw that some dude made like a song about it,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about kind of like, hey, I don't need validation from people. I got my own stuff to deal with, and like I'm gonna get through them. And it's just kind of weird because that somehow was stemmed from an anime series, which I was like, all right,
Yeah.
dude, that's very creative, like honestly. And I've been putting it on repeat for like the last 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So
That's what I do too.
yeah, like it's something that gets your mood up or gets you hyped or anything like that, and it's great. And I
Yeah.
think those are the kind of stuff that we really need to promote. And I do feel kind of pessimistic to a certain degree when we look at that from social media because the algorithm doesn't promote that stuff all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's scientifically proven that like anger and like those kind of reactions are more marketable than like a feel good moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of weird, but and tying it back to instant gratification, like when we see somebody that's doing something productive, we want to do it, and it's fine to like emulate, not necessarily imitate. But at the same time, we gotta understand too that it takes time. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
It does.
the journey of like what is it? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with the first step or whatever. That
Mm-hmm.
kind of cliche.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cliche for a reason, right? So,
Yeah.
and I think that that's something that we need to like educate ourselves within our community.
Mm-hmm.
That hey, it's everything that you do. I mean, nothing worth keeping in life comes easy.
Right.
Another cliche. And yeah, like when we look at like yeah, and I honestly think when we go back to like high schoolers and middle schoolers, like our I mean, just as humans, our attention span is rapidly declining. Like
Yes. And I think
yeah,
that everything that is such a convenience now that, like you said, our attention span and our patience is just becoming very thin. And to kind of go along with what you said, I like everything in life, pretty much everything in life is about the journey, not the destination. And everything takes time. Everything good takes time. And so, whatever, if it's recovery or anything like that, like it doesn't happen overnight. And I think one of my big pieces of advice for people is consistency is really going to help you. And I would say, like, the three most important things is consistency, environment, um, and like probably your intentions, like I was saying. So like consistency with, like you said, like positive music and listening to happy things, because I know like when my friends are, even if they like go through a breakup and they're depressed for a little bit or everything like that, they surround themselves with like sad music, and that's not good because like I said, that's feeding into your brain. And from a scientific standpoint, I'm not a scientist, I'm took biology in college, but it actually produces hormones that cause depression. And so um, surrounding yourself with, positive quotes on Instagram, positive feed, and positive music is going to help. And so, environment and consistency. Well, your environment is your friends. You need to have friends that lift you up, and same with your family. Not all families lift you up and everything like that. So just stay away as best you can from the people who are toxic, and really just get rid of those people because they're not going to benefit you anyway in life. And another thing I want to say is it's okay to have a small circle. A lot of people in high school and college, they try to like have this big group of friends and look super popular and all this stuff. But I've learned that like most of that stuff is fake, and a lot of those people aren't happy and they don't have true authentic relationships with those kind of people. And so like I have a small circle now, and I'm like proud to say that because the friends I have now are 100% real, and I know I can go to them for anything. I can be myself around them, and any like issue or hardship I'm going through, they're going to be right there with me and they're going to help me through it. So environment is super important, and your intentions is another thing. Like we were saying with mental illness, I think that it's something that people struggle with, but it's not something that you have to stick with your whole life. I think people can work through it. And so if your intentions are good and you want to better yourself and everything like that, I think that you will be able to get through it. And like just like this podcast, people speaking about this kind of stuff, I hope that if anything, like one girl or one person listens to this and can see like I said, in high school I started this this issue formed and developed, and I'm a freshman in college, and I've gone through it. And like I said, I still struggle, but for the most part, I don't have eating disorders anymore, and most days I think positively about myself, and I rarely even think about body image, I guess, anymore because that's not what I'm focused on. And so those are just like my pieces of advice and from my personal experience, like what's helped me through it. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, and like when you talk about small circles, like I think that's also very, very beneficial sometimes. And because realistically, you only have so much attention, you only have so many hours during the day that
hmm
you can give out, really.
yeah,
So sometimes even like even if you're trying to be genuine with people, like trying to be nice and just having a lot of friends is not necessarily always the like going to be beneficial for both you and the people that you're trying to be friends with, because sometimes they might need I don't know, they want to reach out to you, but you don't have time to like, and you sometimes like you can tell legitimately who really doesn't have time and who's just using that as an excuse.
hmm
Like
yeah,
it shows.
it,
Like it shows. Yeah, right. Like it definitely does show. Like if you have somebody that's working on their businesses will be like what shows like, okay, this guy is really busy. Like,
mhm,
yeah, or this girl is really busy, whatever. Um,
yeah,
but then you have the people that literally don't do anything, but they're always saying I'm busy. And it's like, no, you have categories and
yeah,
tiers of like how you rank your friends. And
mhm,
that's not also good either. And it's not good. And we talked about earlier, like getting ourselves away from those type of things. Like if
mhm,
you are caught up in that, just get away from it. Like
right,
nobody needs to wait on somebody for that, like begging for scraps. I mean, I know it's going to sound bad the way I'm painting the picture, but I
mhm,
don't know how else to express the point. But like nobody deserves to wait around for somebody else just begging for scraps of attention. Like
mhm,
nobody does.
yeah,
like like sometimes friendships are really weird because like for example, like I also have a small circle of friends. There's some people that in that circle that I talk to more than others, but
mhm,
like one like what I consider I guess my best friend, like we don't like we've gone 3 4 years without talking, and then the minute that one of us reaches out to the other, it's like
mhm,
we've never skipped a beat,
yeah. I
and
had a
that's like
relationship with one of my friends from high school too. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's I think for me, like I value that one for sure. I mean, just the same as anybody else, right? And any other friendship, but it's like it feels nice. Like right now, like he recently had his child, so he let me know when
Oh,
his wife was pregnant, and then
mhm,
when he had his child, I went over there and and definitely held his child, and it's like, dude, this is awesome, and
yeah.
we hadn't talked for a year before that,
Mhm,
and it's like those kind of friendships, like they're great, and it's not because like one of us doesn't have any issues. Like, no, we both have issues. It's just we have different issues, but we know that when it really like for the really, really serious stuff, we know we're gonna be there for each other, like
mhm, yeah,
100%. So, and I think we need to surround ourselves more with those kind of relationships.
mhm, for sure.
So, yeah, and like honestly, like I think there's another factor that plays into mental health that I haven't really discussed yet a whole lot since I started this podcast, and we can touch a little bit on that, right now, which
Okay.
is kind of like physical health, like in terms of nutrition and exercising,
Mhm.
how that plays into mental health. And I know this is definitely up your wheelhouse because you're doing that one challenge. What was that one challenge that you were telling me about?
It's called the 75 Hard Challenge.
Okay, can you briefly describe what that is, more or less?
Yes. So, the 75 Hard Challenge was created by one of my, like, biggest inspirations, biggest motivators. His name is Andy Frisella, and he has, like, a great story. If y'all wanna go to andyfrisella.com, he kind of explains himself and how, like, he was this little small town overweight kid and how now he's ripped and he's a millionaire and has so many businesses. But he created this challenge called 75 Hard, and it's a mental toughness challenge. And most people think it is a fitness challenge, and there are like physical changes, and definitely fitness is involved in it, but it definitely changes your mentality. So what it is for 75 consecutive days, you have to complete daily requirements. So like, I actually have it on my lock screen on my phone, so I'm gonna read it off. So
Go
the
ahead.
daily requirements are you have to take a progress picture of yourself daily. You have to drink a gallon of water daily. I have my gallon jug right here of water. You have to
Nice.
work out 2 times a day for 45 minutes each, and one of the workouts has to be outside no matter the weather conditions. So if it's raining, snowing, you have to work outside. You have to stick to a healthy diet, and he doesn't specify. It's just a diet of your choice, depending on like your fitness goals, if you want to lose weight and stuff like that. And then you have to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, and you can have no cheat meals or alcohol. So you have to do this for 75 consecutive days. And if you mess up, you have to go back to day one. And like I was saying, it has like, it's day 9, but it's already changed my mentality in a way. Like 2 days ago, I went for for my 45-minute workout outside. I went for a run for 45 minutes. So I ran 4 miles, and I've never run like that long consecutively. Like I would like run in increments, but I've never run like 4 miles in a row. And I looked down at my watch. I remember this. I looked down at my watch, and I was at 2.74 miles. And, my knee was hurting, my hip was hurting, and all this stuff, and which are just, in terms of excuses and everything like that. And so I was like, I could really just walk right now and finish my 45-minute workout with a walk, but I'm just going to keep going and keep pushing. And I looked down at my watch, 3 miles, 3.5 miles, and 4 miles. And I hit 4 miles, and like that feeling was like so good of just completing and accomplishing something hard. And I for sure know, like a year ago, if I tried to do that, or even like a couple weeks ago, I would have stopped and I would have started walking. But it makes you like get rid of excuses in your mind, and it makes you like, instead of telling yourself like you can't, it tells you like you can, and like just keep going, like you can do it. And so back to like what you were saying, physical health has to relate to mental health. It's like the gym was an outlet for me at first, and of course, like I started my fitness journey because, like I said, I wanted to look good and have this certain body image. I used to be an athlete growing up my whole life. So when I quit my sports, I gained a little bit of weight and I wasn't active. So going from practice from like 5 hours a day, 5 times a week to nothing, it really changed. And so I got into the gym, and then it just developed into this passion because it taught me like I can like set goals for myself and work towards them and achieve them. And it pushed me, and I love being active, and I'm a super competitive person, even if it's with myself. And so I formed this passion and created this business. And it's not only helped me mentally, and it's helped me become mentally tough. It's helped change my mindset on a lot of things. But I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and he was saying like fitness like teaches you lessons that help in every area of your life. And that's so true. Like going to the gym, you wake up and you're like, oh, I really don't want to go. Well, you push yourself to go. For example, a 4-mile run, if you feel like quitting, you have that person in your mind, that voice in your mind telling you to keep going. And so physical health definitely plays a big role with mental health, I would say. And, if someone is physically unwell, and most likely means they're mentally unwell as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so even like working out, like scientifically, it just produces more endorphins in your mind. So after a workout, like scientifically, you feel more happy because it does release those endorphins. And being in shape, just like I said, it produces and creates this mentality of you wanting more and you wanting to achieve more and accomplish more. And nutrition, oh my gosh, is so important. Eating healthy and eating the right things for your body really does like change how you think. And it's almost like if you eat junk food, you're clouding your head and your headspace with junk. And then like once you like eat healthy food, you just feel so wholesome and just feel so much better about yourself. And so that's what I also promote on my with my business and on my Instagram, is just like like living a healthy lifestyle in all 3 aspects: workout, nutrition, and mindset. And so yeah.
Absolutely. So I never really, I'll be completely honest to everybody. Like I never really push a certain like plan or fitness challenge or anything like that. I never do, because again, it's not one size fits all. But when you were telling me that when we were at the gym, I thought, okay, it's definitely important to talk about, because even though like, okay, this 75-day challenge still may not be the end all be all for a lot of people, but I think it's about as comprehensive as it gets in terms of like what we're talking about, like where physical health plays into mental health. And the fact that we were adding the requirements of like, well, going out and running outdoors or doing exercise outdoors, whether regardless of, the weather. And then also like, reading a couple books, things like that. And like, I think that is pretty much like what I wanted, like to the point that I wanted to drive home. And again, I encourage people to look at that, but if it's not something that you're going to stick to, maybe alter it a little bit to your needs, like what we talked about earlier. It's okay to emulate, but if you're going to imitate, just be prepared that sometimes the results might not be the same, like in terms of physique and things like that, because we're anatomically different. Like
Right.
all humans are not the same, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that challenge is about as good as it's gonna get, and I think that's it's pretty. It looks pretty solid, like honestly, and like I
Yeah.
actually do want to try it myself.
Yeah, you should. So, one of my friends, I actually met him through social media, which is, one of the highlights of social media is he followed my fitness account, and I reached out to him because his page is very inspiring, and he's actually a speaker himself, and uh, he pushed me to do this challenge, and there's like a GM, like a group chat, and he added me, and there's like we now have 70 members, and there's probably about like 50 of us who are all doing the 75 hard challenge, and just everyone every day, like we send pictures after our workouts, and then after we finish all of our tasks, we send like hashtag dues paid, and it's just like we were talking about, this community of people who are keeping each other accountable. They're pushing each other, and like there are some times when people will text to be like, didn't really want to do this today, but like y'all motivated me to go and do it and stuff like that. And it's been a really great experience. So, and also like the 75 hard thing, it does look super intimidating and a lot. And so I think like baby steps, like maybe incorporate like, okay, 3 times a week, I'm going to read 10 pages of a book, or 3 times a week, I'm going to start working out, and just taking baby steps. Because I think if you go from like 0 to 100, you're gonna like tire yourself out, or you're more likely to quit because you're gonna be, wow, like this is a lot. So I think, try to incorporate some of these habits into your lifestyle and start slow, and then kind of build up from there. Because some of these things like I was already doing, like 2 workouts a day. I started reading a bit, so some of these things I was already doing, and so the challenge is difficult, but it's more the consistency and the intention behind it that has changed in my routine. So, like you were saying, like if you don't want to do 75 hard, just like do baby steps and do little parts of it. So,
I think the concept is phenomenal, honestly. Like the concept itself, and I mean, I can't talk about it enough. Like when you first told me about it, I was like, okay, that sounds really, really good. Like honestly, because I can't think of anything else that encompasses everything. Like again, I have to repeat myself, but yeah, like because I've always like obviously within reason, like because I grew up also struggling as a chubby kid and everything, and I got to the gym, and well, once I got to high school, I started doing sports, and I got really lean. Then I got chubby again when I graduated high school. Then got back into the gym, and then it like I kind of went a little too far in the sense that now if I didn't go to the gym, now I was kind of mentally depressed. So I was like, like so you got to watch out for those pit traps as well.
yeah.
But yeah, so I think there's definitely more to talk about when it comes to nutrition, how that plays into the mental health aspect. And I think physical health, again, as long as we know that we're pushing ourselves and we're essentially comparing ourselves today versus tomorrow and not to other people, I think that's the way we can use that to just drive ourselves to be better. And
Yeah.
a lot of times we follow those pitfalls, again, going back to the instant gratification, where we compare ourselves to, I don't know, the person that we see on social media, and like, well, how come my abs don't look like that? How come my chest doesn't look like that? It's like, well, your chest looks different because you're different, or
Right. And to
even
touch
like,
base on that as well, I'm not like a coach or anything. I am a certified personal trainer, and I have had material that I've studied, and like it is oversaid, but like everyone is made differently genetically and like scientifically and biologically. Everyone has a different body shape, body type. There are body types. There are mesomorphs, endomorphs, and ectomorphs, and those are the 3 different body types within people. And some people can inhibit qualities of both of those things. So, like for example, an ectomorph is somebody who has a really high metabolism, and is naturally really skinny. So I have one of my girlfriends who goes to OU. She's just naturally like super, super skinny. And everything like that. And people used to say like, oh, like you're anorexic and make fun of her, which was not okay, but that's just biologically how she was made. And then there's a mesomorph, who is somebody who gains muscle really easily and holds on to fat, doesn't have as high of a metabolism, and that's me. So like growing up, I had like a super muscular figure, and playing sports, I kind of developed those muscles at a young age. So like I have a really wide back, and then I have like bigger legs and bigger leg muscles from soccer and swimming and horseback riding, and like genetically that's just how I was made. And I used to be so insecure about, like I could put on muscle so quick, and I had bigger legs and bigger thighs, which is shunned upon in our society these days, which I don't understand why.
Neither do I.
I don't understand it. Like I have strong legs, and being strong, and like also to talk about that from a fitness perspective is like being strong is also something functional. So like, for example, one of my friends was injured, and she actually passed out on the ground, and none of my other girlfriends could pick her up, but I literally put her over my shoulder and like did like a deadlift or a squat and picked her up and carried her to the car. And like the feeling of, okay, like everyone is hating me for having big legs, but nobody could actually pick her up and help her. And so I think like that's a whole another topic within itself, but the concept of body image and like judging people for certain parts of their body is not okay. So like I said, mesomorph is more of a muscular body type, and then mesomorph is somebody has a slower metabolism, and naturally they just have more body fat within themselves, and that's from genetics. And so there are literally different body types, and everyone has different, like longer legs or longer torso, shorter legs. And so that's why I think that that really helped me, like instead of comparing myself to people's body image, like instead of trying to like find gratification within like my appearance and my exterior, I wanted to find gratification like from others, and they were proud of me of working on my business, or for example getting my certification. The amount of feedback I got of people saying like congratulations was so much more meaningful to me than somebody being like, oh, you're pretty or you have a good body. And now to me, like those type of compliments are almost meaningless. I mean, I do appreciate them, but they're almost meaningless because I am confident in who I am now, and I understand like, thank you, like that's super sweet. But if somebody told me like they were proud of me, or they see like I'm striving in my business, like that is so much more meaningful to me now. And so yeah.
No, that's that's pretty good. I mean, we're approaching our 1 hour mark. The only other thing that I was going to add back to what you were talking about, like when you do like the fitness, and then that kind of helps in other aspects of life. Like I mean, that's kind of why I'm blending in the outdoors with mental health, because for me, I mean, I know plenty of other people that share this similar experience, but for me specifically, like fishing definitely taught me to be less prideful. So when I was less prideful, that means that certain things that people, certain interactions that may have not been favorable to me, now I can get out of, because I'm not full of pride anymore. I have more patience, because again, fishing does require a lot of patience sometimes. And yeah, it's just, and one of those things too, like I have nothing to prove to anybody else. Sometimes I don't even want to prove anything to myself. I just want to get out there and do whatever the hell I want to do, so
Yeah.
That, which is what I got from fishing, especially during the COVID time, during the COVID lockdowns, which were pretty bad in terms of mental health. Yeah, I think that's what my biggest takeaway from the outdoors is, because those same traits, like from the outdoors, because I mean, being out in nature, it's a humbling experience. Like going to a gym and somebody knowing more, having more knowledge than you, humbling experience. Going like my first time at a jiu-jitsu gym, I was like, I think what is it, 100-pound woman tapped me out like that, and like she just dominated me, and I was just like, okay, humbling experience. She definitely had, she was I think a blue belt, and I was just fresh white belt. So but it wasn't even just so much that she was a woman, it's just the fact that, okay, I'm in here, I don't know jack shit anything, and just it's a humbling experience. So and one of those things where like if I still had that same pride that I had before COVID, and even in my younger years, I probably would have been like, well, screw this, I'm out. Like I don't even be doing this.
Yeah.
But because I have that, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, you finish.
I was just gonna say, because I had that the sense that I wasn't trying to do this just to prove other people. It's just I was trying to do it to enhance myself. It let me stay there for a little while, you know?
Yeah, and I was just gonna add on to that, another thing to that helped me was, like you said, like, fishing is kind of like your outlet and, like, your place of peace and, happiness where you can just relax and, just, like, enjoy life, and so I think for people to finding an outlet is really important, and my outlet at first, like, it's the gym, but at first, like, I was in the gym for, the wrong reasons, but I switched my mentality and I switched that mindset, and now I'm in the gym for the right reasons, and, like, that's my outlet. Also, the outdoors, I love the outdoors. I love hiking, I love hunting and fishing, I love going to the beach, and so, like, anywhere in nature, even just, like, going on a walk outside on a beautiful day, like, that's my outlet where, like, I can just, like, think and just be in peace and not have to worry about anything and so like just like wrap this up, another thing I would say is define your outlet, even if like journaling can be an outlet, or like if you're religious, like reading the Bible, or like going to church, or if you're not religious, like maybe reading a motivational book, or like I said, journaling and writing things down. And so I think an outlet is really important to help you if you're dealing with mental issues and just like help clear your mind and let you think. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's great, and I think that's a pretty good note to end
Mhm.
this episode on. Before we go, though, any other last final words that you have for the listeners?
I guess the one thing I would say is everybody deals with something. And if you're dealing with something, you're not alone. I promise you, 1,000 other people are dealing with the same issue. And back to body image, I just want to say that I don't have to see whoever's watching this, I don't have to see your face to know that you're a beautiful person and that you're worthy and that you're accepted. And it doesn't really matter at the end of the day what you look like. It matters about your heart, and somebody coming like saying that and coming from a place where her body image was the most important thing to her is a really big step. And I just want to say, like, it's not the most important thing in the world. So thank you, Al, so much for having me and letting me talk about this. I've never talked about this publicly, so this was a really big step for me, and was really relieving to be able to talk about this and not feel insecure about it or feel judged by it. And so I just wanted to thank you for having me on here.
Well, I mean, again, I've told you this many times. And I'm going to say it again. Thank you for coming on and sharing your experience and talking about this issue from an outsider perspective, and also from somebody that actually dealt with some kind of mental health issue.
Yeah.
The only other thing to add to that, and my final words, is just basically like if you see somebody that's striving to, be fit or whatever, whether it's a really really overweight person, whether it's a really thin person, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I do see sometimes where we see, for whatever reason, like we look at a thin person like, oh, they're just posting all these progress pics because they're just trying to show off their body. Like,
Yeah.
let's not be so quick to judge, right?
Mhm.
And the same thing like with an overweight person, like why is that person here? Like they're not gonna get like that kind of negativity. Like, I mean, it's one thing that we mentally fortify ourselves to try to block that out, but just because we have people that are mentally fortifying themselves doesn't necessarily mean that us as people, as humans, as community members,
Mhm.
need to be projecting that. So
Right.
back to what you were talking about, it sounds a little cliche. If we just we should be a little bit kinder to people,
Mhm.
or at the very least, just don't be negative.
Yeah. If you can't be nice, just don't say anything at all.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at the very least. But all right, so really quick, so what's your Reckless Fitness page? Like, go ahead and share that.
So I have an Instagram and a TikTok and YouTube, and it's Reckless. It's spelled RCKLSS with no E's and then just fitness. So if y'all want to go follow me, that'd be greatly appreciated. And like I said, I post workout videos and motivational posts and everything like that. And yeah,
Yeah. If anything, I mean, you don't necessarily have to strive for fitness, but just for the the motivational posts, that sometimes is more than enough.
yeah.
So, all right. Well, thanks again, Audrey.
Thank
Don't
you.
leave yet until, I'm going to pause the recording, but I
Okay.
want to talk to you after. But yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
All right. See you guys soon.